Fair Isle and stranded colorwork in general is beautiful, but it's not easy to knit. We have to manage a few strands of yarn at the same time. We have to remember to pick one of the strands from underneath the other. And there is always that issue with tension. The floats should be long enough to avoid the jamming of the fabric. In this video, I'll show you a way to completely avoid the first two issues and to make the third one much easier to deal with. First, let's see how this technique works when we knit in the round. The idea is simple. We're gonna work the same round twice. First time, we're gonna use the contrasting color that is right here. And the second time, we're gonna do same round, but we'll use the main color, the golden one. And we'll be working according to this color pattern. This one has a 6-stitch repeat, and first we knit the stitch that is in contrasting color, then 1 in main color, then 3 in contrasting color, and 1 in main color. Those stitches that are shown in contrasting color are going to be knit. So we'll take the contrasting color and we knit it. And the ones that are shown in the supposed to be in the main color, we're going to slip them in the first round. So we're going to knit one, then slip one, and we do it with just one strand of contrasting color. The other one is just sitting there waiting for its turn, okay? So we knit one with the contrasting color, with the orange, and then we slip one, then knit 3, because that's what the color pattern tells us to do, and slip 1. And do it again. Knit 1, slip 1, knit 3, and slip 1. And go ahead and do it until you come to the end of the round, and we are back to the place where the main color is sitting. Even though we don't have to worry about multiple strands, we still have to think about the tension. And to make sure your tension is good, spread the stitches on the right needle every few stitches to make sure that the fabric is stretched. So when you have to have the float over here, it would be long enough to ensure that the fabric is not jammed like this, because that's the big problem with the stranded color work. So I just knit 3, and so I slip the 1 stitch. And we are back to the beginning of the round, but we don't move to the second round of the color pattern yet. We still work the same round. This time we're gonna do it with the main color, the golden one, and we're gonna slip the stitches that are marked as orange on the color pattern, and we're gonna knit the stitches that are marked with the yellow, the golden one. So we take the main color, the golden, and start knitting. This one we slip 1, knit 1, slip 3, and because we are slipping 3, it's very important to remember about the tension. So I spread the stitches to make sure that the float in golden color is going to be long enough to make the fabric quite flexible. So I slip 3 and then knit 1. And repeat that same sequence again. Slip 1, knit 1, adjust the tension. See, I'm stopping once in a while and spreading the stitches on the right needle. Then we slip 3, adjust the tension, and knit 1. If you are working in the round using the magic loop or using the double pointed needles, here's one more thing that I want to show you. We need to be very careful about the floats that happen here on the fold. So I'm going to move this away. That happen here in the fold, because when the yarn is sitting a few stitches away, then it's easy to pull it, and that means the float over here would be too small. So when you come to this spot, and right now we have to slip 3 stitches, keep one of the right fingers in here to make sure the float is big enough and that and then your fabric won't be jammed. Or if you don't want to keep your finger there, just remember to stop and pull that float to make it relaxed. Okay, and that will fix that problem with the tension that could happen on the fold of the fabric. And that's true only if you're working with the magic loop or if you're working with the double pointed needles. You need to take care of those places between needles. And here we are, just arrived to the end of the round, and because we worked it twice, that means we completed the first row of the color pattern. So we finished this one. Now we can move up and work on the second row of the color pattern, and then the third and the fourth, and so on until you get a lovely motif like I have over here. That's how you work in the round using this easy technique. Now let's see how this technique works when we work flat. The idea is same. We're gonna work the same row twice, once with the contrasting color and once with the main color. Because we're gonna work the same row twice or 3 times if you use 3 colors, that means we need to use double pointed needles or circular needles, because we're gonna slide the stitches here and there to get to the beginning of the row. The row would be same. We're working according to the same color pattern, but this time the color pattern would be a bit different in terms of the rows. So you see the first row and the third row will start from the right to left, and the second and the fourth will start from the left to right. That's the only difference, but still we're working on according to the same first row. So we will with the contrasting color, we will knit the first stitch, then we will slip 1, then we'll knit 3 again and slip 1, and that's the sequence we're gonna repeat just now. For this swatch I cast on 21 stitch. That's 3 repeats of the 6 stitch pattern, plus I added 2 selvage stitches because they do make the edges neater, and besides they work as anchor points when we change the colors. And I also added 1 extra stitch to make the color pattern symmetrical. So this one, the first one, is selvage in my case. So I'm gonna slip it because I always work it with the main color. So this one doesn't count as a color pattern. And now the first stitch we knit with the contrasting color. Now slip 1, knit 3, slip 1, and repeat this same sequence. And keep doing that until you come to the last stitch of the row. Okay, here's our last stitch. It is selvage. It does not count as a part of a color pattern, so I simply slip it because we will work it with the main color. Now, even though the row kind of finished, but we're not done with it yet. So we slide all stitches back to this tip of the needle, and now we pick the main color yarn and we work the same color pattern again. First I'm gonna knit the selvage, and then we slip 1, knit 1, slip 3, knit 1. That's our pattern. And because we slipping 3 stitches, we should be careful about the float, same way as we did in the when we worked in the round. We simply either pull on the float to make it more relaxed, or you simply stretch the stitches on the right needle to make sure that the float is long enough. And then repeat the same pattern, slip 1, knit 1, slip 3, knit 1, until you come to the last stitch of the row. Okay, slip the last stitch and then knit the selvage. Here we go. Now, before we move on, so we finished the first row of the pattern, but before we move on, we need to twist the yarns. Doesn't really matter how, we need it to make sure that we don't get any gaps over here. So twist the yarns, pick the contrasting color, and then turn your work, and we'll start the next row, the purl row, with the contrasting color. Let's look at our color pattern. What does it tell us to do in the second row? Move on your guide, and we see that with the contrasting color now, we work from this side, and with the contrasting color, we're gonna slip 1, knit 2, slip 1, knit 2, and that's what we're gonna do. Remember to look at the chart when you're working the wrong side row. Remember to start them from left to right. This one is salvage, it doesn't count. I simply slip it, and then we slip 1, purl 2, because we are working in stockinette stitch, and that's the wrong side row, so we're gonna be purling. Slip 1, purl 2. That's an easy pattern to follow, right? Slip 1, purl 2, and do that until you come to the last stitch of the row. And we came to the salvage stitch, and I simply slip it because it's going to be worked in the main color. Half of the row is done, because same thing as we did with the right side row, we slide the stitches, and then we start working the same row again, but now we're gonna purl the stitches that were slipped and slip the stitches that were purled already with the contrasting color. We start with the salvage and purl that stitch, and that's what I mean by anchoring the colors, because those extra salvage stitches, they give you one stitch to kind of reattach the color to the row, which usually works great. So now we're working with the main color, and we're gonna be knitting the first stitch, and then slipping 2, purling 1, slipping 2, purling 1, slipping 2, and so on. That's quite an easy pattern. So we purl 1 and slip 2. When we are purling, we're slipping stitches, of course, with the yarn at the front of the work. Purl 1, slip 2, and then we do it until we come to the last stitch of the row. The last stitch is salvage, so I simply purl it, then twist the yarns again and turn your work. Let's see what happened. We worked 2 rows of the color pattern. See, we already have this much over here, and it looks exactly the same as any stranded color pattern, any fair isle, and no one will know that you've done it in a different way. But by working each row several times with just one strand, we make it easier for us to manage the strands. Then we don't have that issue with colors. One color is always at the bottom of the other one. There is one more thing about the colors. If you want the color pattern to be more prominent, more vivid, then always start the round or the row with the contrasting color, just like we did over here. In some cases, you might want it to have it more subtle, then start the row or the round with the main color, and I'll show you a little swatch that shows this concept. See, you don't really see a big difference, but if you look closely, you will notice that the first motif is more kind of standing out, right? And the second one is more subtle. It's kind of somewhere deep in the pattern, and that's the difference. The first one was worked with the contrasting color being the first one, and the second one I started every row with the main color. And that's how you use this technique when you work back and forth in the color pattern. And that's how easy it is. Click the link in the description to get the step-by-step instructions and the chart for the color pattern shown in this video. I'll see you next Thursday.